Hey everybody, it's Asmara and welcome back to the channel. So today we are sitting at my desk. Y'all can see my computers, which means we talking today. I haven't done a video like with my camera set up like this in a minute. So yeah, some things have changed about my setup. Look at my beautiful mic arm. I did this little DIY. I have a second monitor. I put a pretty picture up that y'all can look at. And also I kind of want to make this a gallery wall back here. This has not changed since like the start of my channel, but I kind of want to, you know, mix it up a little bit for the background of my videos. But anyways, this is not why you're here. I'm really excited to finally do another sort of talky commentary video. The last one I did in this sort of style was like the first video I uploaded to my channel back in literally October of 2020. And I haven't done like another sort of freestyle talking video, which this one isn't completely freestyle because I have notes, but you know, something where I'm just sort of reflecting on myself, my experiences, and just something that's been on my mind recently. A lot of my, you know, talking or analytical videos sort of started becoming more video essay style, more scripted, a lot more like about larger issues and topics. But I began realizing that a lot of people have come to my channel because they like to hear my thoughts on things, like to hear my insight, and I don't necessarily always have to be making, you know, like a banger 50-minute video essay whenever I want to use my voice, you know? So I'm trying to like work on finding value in my voice, even in little topics. Like today, as you guys can tell by the title, we're going to be talking about why I prefer reality in media, whether that's video games, TV, books, shows, why I prefer sort of stories about everyday people and everyday experiences over sort of more fantastical media. Follow me. So the inspiration for this video was really trying to find a gaming niche that I can see myself in. I don't consider myself a simmer, although I feel like a lot of people have come to associate my content and my channel with The Sims, even though I have not uploaded a Sims gaming video since literally like summer of last year. That's how a lot of people found my channel, so I get it. That's why people, you know, some people have come to enjoy, but I would literally be so bored if I only played The Sims. And also, this is like a brief side note. I've like sort of noticed this recently. I feel like since The Sims community online is literally so large, like once you've been like accepted as like a simmer, like once you've entered it, it's kind of hard to like break out of people seeing you outside of that. I've heard a few creators express that recently. Like once you've been identified as a Sims creator, like when you want to be not just labeled as that, when you want to be seen more holistic and more as an individual, people will be like, Sims, you know? So I don't know, is there a way that I can escape that? Let me know in the comments. Maybe I can make a separate video on that. Escaping the Sims cult. Maybe cult has like a negative connotation, but the Sims label, the simmer label. How to escape the simmer label? I don't know. And I also don't really necessarily relate to the variety gamer label because I don't just like just any type of variety games. Just because certain games are trendy or you see them everywhere, like I've been seeing Elden Ring a lot of places recently, Sifu, Horizon Forgotten West, like there are certain titles that I see that a lot of variety gamers play, but again, those titles don't necessarily interest me. And I'm not just gonna watch different creators or find different games that I connect with just because they're popular or a lot of people like them. Like I feel like there's sort of a niche of games that I'm interested in that I'm still trying to pinpoint. I've also been introduced to like the cozy gamer niche recently. That niche is kind of getting closer to where I'm at as a gamer, but still not quite there. And I guess I've just sort of started realizing that I identify more as a storyteller, or I identify as a storyteller first before a gamer. And I really like games and just media in general that reflects a larger human experience, that tells a larger story about people, that allows me to empathize, and a story that, you know, inspires me, and a story that allows me to think. I'm attracted to those types of media more than just random trendy titles, which again, I'm not just saying this like trash on, games that other people play. Like the last trendy game I was really into was the new FNAF, the security breach. I watched a lot of people play that game. I thoroughly enjoyed that. Yeah, this is not about, trashing other people's game preferences or styles, but I just haven't really found a community that 100% represents how I define myself or how I identify myself as a gamer. And so that started leading me to question, is there sort of a niche for me? And why do I even like gaming to begin with? I've sort of started reflecting on myself and the types of media I've just always been interested in. And that's when I started realizing that I connect honestly with people and human stories before I necessarily connect with games or content or creators. I definitely have always been interested in story-based narrative-driven games, as you guys can tell. All the games I want to play on this channel are definitely story-based or simulation. And so that's another reason I don't really feel like I fit into that, again, variety gamer category, is because although variety gamers, like, the title implies, they play a variety of different games, I don't necessarily just want to play any game. Like, I definitely have a preference of the more story-driven games, or the games that are about sort of a human experience and tell a larger story about us, about humanity. And then also what allows me to connect to games and other media is the relatability piece. Like, games that kind of show you that you can belong in this space too. Games that are evidence that you are not alone. Games that confirm that who you are is valid, as well as games that pass along courage for you to simply be who you are. And when I say games, I mean media, so like stories in general. Those are like the types of narratives I most closely relate to and connect with. And there's this beautiful quote by Dr. Brené Brown in her book, Atlas of the Heart. Here she is, not spons, but it's about connection. And it reads, "Connection is the energy that exists between people when they feel seen, heard, and valued." I love those words, seen, heard, and valued, and that kind of reminded me of exactly why I relate to the media that I relate to. Thinking back on some like media and stories that I gravitated to like when I was just younger, I used to love things like Diary of a Wimpy Kid. I did a reaction video to that new movie recently. Well, not recently, but earlier this year on my channel. Those types of books like that. Dork Diaries. I love this book called Smile, which is again in that same like graphic novel format, which it basically has pictures and there's like speech bubbles. I love those like everyday kid in school type stories. And then when it came to like real books, quote unquote, I really liked things like The Giver. That was one of my favorite books in 8th grade, I think that's when we had to read it. And even though The Giver is technically like a sort of futuristic set book or story, it does have a lot of very human themes. It's kind of like Detroit Become Human in a way, where it's like a dystopian sort of future where you've tried to make everything perfect and then realize, actually this whole humans trying to make things perfect actually kind of makes things worse. What a concept. The Hate You Give was one of my favorite books, came high school, and again, I did not read a lot when I was, in grade school. So the types of books even then I noticed have something to do with like highlighting or documenting sort of just the everyday person going through everyday struggles and overcoming them. When I started finding books that I enjoyed come like beginning of college, I really gravitated towards memoirs, and I just really like people telling their stories. I just think it's really fascinating. I've always loved listening to podcasts, not always, but I like listening to podcasts. I like when, hosts have like guests on and they get to talk about their experiences. I just think humans can be trash, but humans can also be inspiring. And I guess I'm just inspired by the everyday person story more than I am like more fantastical works. Like growing up, Harry Potter was a big thing, Hunger Games, Divergent, like those types of like dystopian teen movies. Y'all remember that like stage? That was a time. Twilight. Nathan Zed actually did a video about the era of the teen dystopian movies. That was a pretty entertaining video. But anyways, I watched those movies. I tried reading some of those books, but again, it's like the types of stories that I always came back to, even when I was younger, were stories just about everyday people going through everyday things. And then that kind of leads me to games that I started enjoying, apart from like, the classics, Mario Kart, like the more party games that you play with like friends and family. When I started, I guess, becoming more involved in gaming and the gaming community, I was attracted to games like The Sims, which is a life simulator, a game about everyday life and everyday people. When I was just starting out high school, Life is Strange came out, the first game, and I immediately became hooked to that. Life is Strange was like the first like narrative game I ever like knew existed. Like I did not know that was a genre of video games until Life is Strange came out, and it's still relatively like newer genre, like narrative based games, like episodic, more like movie type games. But I immediately became hooked on that, and I just got really immersed in the storyline, and it definitely helped that it was in a relatable setting. Like it's literally set in like a high school or like a boarding school or some sort of fancy high school with teenagers. It's just a very familiar setting, familiar environment that I didn't know a lot of games didn't have until I started getting more involved in gaming communities. And there's some other games that don't necessarily take place in everyday settings, but also kind of do. Like my other two like big story mode games that I became hooked with is The Walking Dead, which again, like the dead walking part is not necessarily relatable, but like that game is still really heavily focused on the characters and the relationships, and it obviously takes place in the United States, in real places, real states, real cities, so it's not like a imagined world. And then Detroit Become Human is another one of those games where technically, yes, it is sort of set in a near future, but it's just that, a near future, familiar environment, relatable characters, themes that I can see that are kind of reflective of our world today. But I just basically say all that to say, even through the media that I enjoyed as a kid, all the way up to like the games I started playing when come middle school, high school, and I started, I guess gaming a little bit more regularly, were those games that had more human themes, and that's just what I ended up connecting with to the most. And I see media as a way to sort of connect the dots. Like I might have a few dots here, then this game has a few dots, this book that I read has some dots, and like as you find something that you resonate with that either acts as a mirror or kind of completes a picture in your life, something that just it connects with you, that makes you feel seen, heard, valued, like I feel like all the dots start painting a larger picture about yourself, about life, or whatever the case may be. In Life is Strange, I love the idea of the everyday hero, whether that's with Max or with Sean. I liked that their characters were made to be sort of more shy, more quiet, a little bit more reserved or to themselves. That's a character type that I can personally relate to, especially going to the first Life is Strange, Max sort of being the quiet, shy girl, but then also being able to be that everyday hero by simply being her. It's like the everyday little things that you do can make a great impact, which you can kind of relate to real life. On a larger scale, I really liked how Life is Strange tackled this idea of like the butterfly effect with time and how everything in life events are like so interconnected. I thought that was really interesting. Of course, Life is Strange is not perfect by any means, but I don't know, I recently rewatched a playthrough of the game. At least what I took away from the game is that everything is sort of interconnected, and once you mess with one thing in time, it can like have a chain reaction that you did not expect. So sometimes it's good to just let life happen as it does. Of course, I love the character building, the relationship building. And again, I just like the idea of the everyday hero being able to help different people across campus and to sort of shape the story and the course of the town through sort of the protagonist. The Walking Dead I really connected to because of course The Walking Dead is set in like an apocalyptic society, and that's not necessarily relatable, but like I really like how again this game is really focused on character relationships and honestly really about sort of finding like humanity in what's left of it, you know, literally as, you know, the dead start walking. And that game definitely tests your morals. Same with Detroit. I would say Detroit more so messes with your morals, but Walking Dead, you just really connect with the characters. You really just sort of, you know, tap into the survival instinct, like what's more important. I love the dynamic in the first season with Lee, like taking care of Clementine, being like a father figure, becoming who the people around you need you to be, and then Clem kind of doing the same for AJ down the line. I just love that whole dynamic and sort of trying to still hold on to what's valuable to us even when the world literally seems to be ending, you know? I think it's a really cool story about sort of unpacking who we allow ourselves to become when we are in survival mode or when we're on our last legs. And then the last sort of story game I wanted to talk about that I really connected to is Detroit Become Human, and I made a whole separate video about that, so I won't go too in depth in this video about, you know, Detroit, but that's like one of the games that has like one of the most obvious sort of reflections of society and of the modern world and issues that we're going through in many cultures today. It honestly reveals a lot about humanity, how we can be trash, but then also what makes us human, you know, our abilities to connect to each other, our abilities to protect and to nurture, the way we love, the way we put our lives in the line for the greater good, like my boy Marcus, and just sort of the way we sort of grow and connect through difficult situations or circumstances. It's just a really interesting game about identity, empathy, and fighting for who you are, fighting for, you know, justice. So very clear mirror of society. Like this game was very clearly trying to make social statements. And again, that's like the type of media that I really like and I think is interesting. If you couldn't tell from the type of content I like to put up on this channel, those types of games that sort of center in on human connection is just what I really like to play. And although there's some other games here and there that I enjoy, like I like playing Minecraft, I think it's relaxing, and occasionally I do play relaxing games. I think like the ones that I relate to the most are the ones that talk about humanity and hold up a mirror to our society, or just about everyday people. Like it doesn't necessarily have to be about like oppression and like, you know, fight the power, but like The Walking Dead, just about connecting with other people. Life is Strange, just sort of saving your hometown, like those types of games. I just want to know if there is like a community or a niche that is sort of dedicated to, I guess, human storytelling. I don't know how to describe it, like a story-rich gamer. Is there a community that's not variety gamer, but is more specific to story-based narrative games? Where can I find those people? Please let me know in the comments, because I would love to know. I want to watch some new creators. I want to like find community with people so it doesn't feel like I'm just sort of alone in this niche of kind of content that I want to create and how I want to identify my channel as. And maybe that does mean marketing to more of a general audience as opposed to like a gaming niche. I don't know. I'm trying to think about that and I'm evaluating that right now. I just felt myself sort of distant in trying to fit the mold of what I feel like gamers or people who make gaming content should be. And I'm just sort of realizing now that I have to really recognize like who I was creating content for in the first place, and that's like everyday people like me, people who don't necessarily consider themselves a gamer, but people who like good storytelling and media that we can see ourselves reflected in, we can see our friends and other people, just the world reflected in. Games that sort of teach us larger things about life and that are just have a relatability piece to them. So what types of games do you connect with? I would love to know. Do you like more reality games, or are you drawn to games that do have more fantastical elements? I would love to know in the comments, what types of games do you connect with? And that's pretty much it. So if you enjoyed this video, be sure to leave a like. Of course, leave your comment below, and I'll see you guys in my next one. Bye everyone.